Hello and welcome to another episode of For Fact's Sake, which is a Fact Fiend FAQ series. I'm Brad, one of the editors of Fact Fiend, and the question I'm going to be answering today is, how do you edit a Fact Fiend video? When it comes to YouTube videos, there has to be a very careful balance between the quality that you come out with and the amount of time it takes you to reach the point where it's ready to be released. Fortunately for Fact Fiend, part of the brand is that the videos are to look professionally unprofessional. However, that doesn't mean that these videos are simple to edit because they have a lot of different steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the process of editing a Fact Fiend video. So the first thing that's done is that the footage is imported into a template that we have set up in Adobe Premiere, which is the editing package that I think we all use. So as you can see here, I've created a new sequence and I've dragged the footage in and synced it up. So we have the video track here, which is where the footage of Carl is. We have the audio track here. This colour that I use here is violet, I believe, yep, and it designates the editor's voice, the person behind the camera. Green, obviously, is the colour that we use for Carl. The audio that I've brought into here has already been edited by me in Audition. We don't do a huge amount of editing to the audio. What we tend to do is just try and remove any bits where it peaks too much, and obviously run a noise suppression to remove any of the background noise. So when it comes to starting the edit, there's multiple passes that we have to do. The first one is what I call the raw pass. This involves going through the footage and basically editing out everything that is mistakes or restarted sentences or pauses. Basically anything that is not content worthy at all gets cut out, and what we're left with is just everything that could be used in a video. So when I edit this footage, I tend to edit at this speed.
The Flash TV show is part of an expansive and, some would say, ambitious TV multiverse where the Scarlet Speedster hangs out and solves crime with his collection of super friends. Perfect.
At the end of that section there is a prime example of something that would be cut out. As you can see, Carl finishes his introduction and then there's a confirmation to let basically the person behind the camera know that he's happy with that take.
Perfect.
That is something that is removed. So for anybody who's ever watched the Raw channel and asks us why those videos are still edited, why it's not entirely the raw footage, that's the reason why. You're not missing anything important. All you're missing is pauses between sentences, and anywhere where Carl will flub a line and restart that sentence, you're just missing the flub bit. You don't miss any content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this process now through a time lapse so you can see just exactly what happens as we go through and we clear out any of the stuff that's not needed and leave only the good stuff. Okay, so there we go. We now have the raw cut of the video ready. So this raw cut here is 21 minutes and 37 seconds long. When we edit a Fact Fiend video down to the length it's going to be, we try and aim for under 15 minutes. So the length that we aim for is between 10 and 15 minutes, which we consider to be a good amount of time for an episode where you'll enjoy watching it all the way through, but you won't get bored before the end. Especially because the actual fact segment usually lasts between, say, 7 and 10 minutes, and then the end segment, after the text disappears and it cuts to black and it comes back on, that segment will go from between 7 to 5 or whatever minutes. For anyone who's interested, that edit then only took me it took me less than 20 minutes, because the way I edit these things now, because I'm so used to doing it, I watch the footage through on a faster speed and I almost never stop it. I only ever need to stop when I need to find my place to get a perfect cut, but normally I just play the whole thing through and I scrub ahead and cut where I see gaps, because you can watch the waveform and you can tell when someone else is going to talk or when Carl's going to pause, or if you see the same waveform over and over again, that's him repeating the same line. So you can look at that and you can go, right, well, he's obviously made a mistake, and here is when he stops making that mistake. So we can't finish the raw cut just yet, because the slide that we put at the start of the raw cut that says the name of the episode it came from and how much footage is missing, we don't know how much footage is going to be cut out because I haven't done the next pass yet. This next pass, it's like a fine pass, but I usually call it the AE pass, which stands for After Effects. And the reason why I do that is that there's a bit later on when I export these, when I export the footage, where I want the name to say After Effects. That's the only reason that's done. So we take the raw composition here, the sequence, and we make a duplicate, and we rename this one to AE, and then we open this one up. So we now have the raw, which is the original one. This one here is the one where we're going to cut this down into what the episode is eventually going to be. If there's ever a situation where I can't find anything to cut out, where everything leads on from everything else, everything is good quality, then I won't cut it out. We're not strictly sticking to under 15 minutes. We just prefer to aim for that. And what you'll find is that a lot of the time, tangents will go on for too long, or explanations will go on for too long, and it doesn't affect the episode, like the coherency of the episode, to remove that. So we have the little intro section here. Because this is going to be the pass that we're going to be using, I'm going to bring in the ident. So here you'll see a prime example of a way to cut a tiny bit of extra time. There is a pause here between Carl speaking to Lucas and Lucas responding. So this section here, Lucas is talking for quite a long time. Depending on the content of what he's saying, I may keep it in. But in this situation, there's a segment here that I can just get rid of. He's just elaborating on the point he's making, and it makes sense without it. So we remove that, and because he's off camera, it is better for Carl to be the one talking for the majority of the time. So there's certain parts where it sounds like Carl's finished a point, like this bit here.
Like, stuff like that, it's just fun. I love that.
So it's very easy from here for me to just cut out a lot of the stuff afterwards, because anything he says after sounds like he's beginning a new point. So what I tend to do here is I'll scrub forwards to the part where we get back to the article, because a general rule of thumb I have is that Carl's tangent should not last more than 3 minutes, because if you go off topic for too long, people who've clicked on the video to listen to the subject matter, the title of the video, will then lose interest because you're not talking about the title of the video.
What sound does a man's ball sack make when he breaks the sound barrier for the virgin camel?
So this bit here, Lucas's reaction here is quite funny, so I've just shifted it across so that he says his response after Carl's sentence.
For the 13th time.
Oh, Carl.
So this is the first very large section that I'm going to cut. This runs from the 4 minute and 7 or 8 second mark through to 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So this tangent begins when Lucas brings up the fact that Scott Pilgrim, the film, uses a lot of like comic book words and imagery in order to accomplish the effect. And then Carl and Lucas start talking about non-diegetic sound used in film and television. Even though the Flash is mentioned or alluded to through this tangent, the main subjects of discussion are Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. It goes through the Batman series from the 1960s, and it talks about Arrow and some of his trick arrows. And it's 2 minutes of time that I can get rid of because, like I said, it's not directly relevant to the article, and it's a very long tangent to take somebody away from the reason why they're there to see the video. So, it goes. Obviously, if anybody is interested in seeing or hearing these tangents that do get removed, they can be found on the Fact Fiend Raw channel, which is called Fact Fiend Behind the Facts. It's linked in the description of every Fact Fiend video, and quite possibly in this one. I'm not quite sure what is going to be in the descriptions for this channel just yet. So if we look at the duration now, we are now down to just over 16 minutes. So this is the reason why we cut out so many of these extra tangents. It's because we're trying to hit a particular duration limit. One of the reasons I think the Fact Fiend did so well is because the video length and the amount of content each one and how quickly the point was got to, but with the tangents, was always consistent.
If you were to edit a scene and put sound design on a scene with a guy going very fast and very different to what the Flash looks like, so the Flash is so much faster than a regular human, it doesn't make sense to edit it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot less just heavy breathing noises when the Flash is involved.
Yeah, so in that vein, Lucas, you want to guess what he decided to edit the Flash like?
So here's an example of another small bit I cut. Lucas makes a joke or a comment, but Carl doesn't follow it up with something else, so it can be removed and it won't affect the flow of the episode.
Oh, does like the Flash ever do the Akira slide in that show?
So we're getting into another tangent now. Lucas has mentioned the Akira slide, and then the conversation turns into one about the Akira slide. Now, this could be a tangent that I could cut out, but we haven't actually had a proper tangent for a while now. We've had a few related to the article, but not something out of the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this tangent in, and if we need to get rid of it later on, we can go back to it. So I can cut off the end of this tangent. It continues here for another 30 seconds or so, but there is a good pause point here, and he starts the next sentence by saying bringing it back, which means that I can put anything before it.
That's where that thing comes from. Pretty much the Flash can be like a 90s sports car. That's how Campbell envisioned it. That's how he's had to edit scene.
Sorry, I realise I'm getting very, very in-depth with this at the moment, but this is something that I do almost daily, and I didn't realise how much thought goes into it until I start presenting it, like trying to explain why I'm doing these things. So I'm probably going to split this into a 2-part episode, because I don't think that I'm going to be, like, if I keep in as much of this as possible for the people who are actually interested in watching this, because there are going to be some people out there who are interested in hearing about this stuff, I don't think I'm going to get the entire editing process for this into a single episode. So I'm going to split this into 2 parts. What we'll do is we'll stop after this part of the edit, and then we'll come back and we'll do the fact checking and the image and stuff collection and the export, etc. Okay, there we go. So we've managed to cut enough that it's now 14 minutes and 20 seconds, which I think is a good length for one of these videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the end slide on. So we've got closing slide, Fact Fiend, Lucas, Brad. So that is a Fact Fiend video that has been edited by me and features Lucas. So yeah, there we go. We've now got to the point where the video is ready to go into the next stages of fact checking, sourcing the images, sourcing the clips, and then piecing everything together. Because this is looking to be a very long episode of For Fact's Sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it for now, and we're going to come back in a future episode with the next stage of this editing process. If you enjoy seeing this behind the scenes stuff, let us know in the comments, and if you're interested in seeing if Lucas or Nisha edit any differently, let us know that in the comments as well.